Welcome to this recording of Lunch and Learn Live, produced by Chamber Low Carbon. Chamber Low Carbon is brought to you by East Lancs Chamber of Commerce in partnership with North and Western Lancashire Chamber, Business Wise Solutions and Boost, supporting businesses across Lancashire to go green, save money and reduce their carbon footprint. Part funded by the European Union European Regional Development Fund, this £4 million programme provides a suite of free services to help businesses improve energy and environmental efficiencies, introduce on-site renewable energy generation, and by doing so, save money. The programme also helps Lancashire businesses developing new low-carbon technologies to bring their products to market, facilitate them being manufactured in Lancashire, and to find demonstrator sites. Enjoy the presentation. Well, thank you for attending Chamber Low Carbon's first live non-lunch and learn. So this is a whole new experience for us. Before we start, I've just got a couple of quick housekeeping things. For those who are members of the Chamber, or those who aren't members of the Chamber, there is a coronavirus hub on East Lancs Chamber of Commerce website. So for all the latest information, how to access the government grants and various elements of support, if you could go to the coronavirus hub on East Lancs Chamber's website. And like I say, we are going to record this and it will be put on to a YouTube channel at a later date. If you've got any questions during the presentation, if you could actually ask the questions in the chat, which should appear at the bottom of your screen. You should have a bar with a chat symbol. If you could ask your questions there, and then after each, we've got two presentations. After each presentation, there will be a short Q&A session. I don't think I've got anything else to add. So this is our first presentation is going to be on sustainable procurement. And we have Caroline Smith and Sean McCarthy from Action Sustainability. So without further ado, I shall hand over to Caroline and hopefully she can share her screen.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm sure perhaps more people will join as we go along this session, and that's fine. But if you have any questions, if you can keep them to the end, that will be absolutely brilliant, so that we can lick through these slides quite quickly. I'm Caroline Smith. I work for Action Sustainability Community Interest Company, which is a not-for-profit business. And we have launched a website, ISO20400.org. Again, it's not for profit. And we're doing this to build a global community of practice around sustainable procurement around the world. Today, what we're going to cover in the Lunch and Learn is the background of BS 8903, ISO 2400 and ISO 2400.org. The steering group that we have and delivery partners, some facts and figures about the website, the fact that we have a self-assessment tool, and I'm hoping lots of you will decide to go online and use this, our future aims and ambitions, and a peek at the website. We're going to have a little bit of a look around the website just to see what there is on there, or to show you what there is on there. And of course, at the end, you could ask any questions. So to give you some background, way back in 2010, the British standard, the BSI 8903 for sustainable procurement was launched in Great Britain. And it was taken up by organisations such as Marks and Spencer's, Grosvenor, Cobham, Loughborough University, Sainsbury's, Skanska, Wilmot Dixon, and many, many others. In 2012, however, the French launched their own sustainable procurement standard, a different version to ours, obviously, and it became obvious that each country having their own sustainable procurement standard was not going to work. We trade globally. We are a global community. So it was decided to create a global ISO standard on sustainable procurement. Sean McCarthy, who's with me today and he's going to come on later and do a presentation, was the chair of the UK delegation, along with Kathy Burry and Colin McCurrock from BSI. And they worked together with people from around the world, experts from around the world, and created the ISO standard. It took 4 years to create the standard, and it was actually launched in April 2017. I had a bit of a glitch there. I wasn't sure if it was the sound. As part of being an ISO committee member, however, it is expected when the standards launch that you go back to your own country or countries that you've been representing and you do what you can to promote the standard. At the very last ISO committee meeting, Jean-Louis Hay from Australia, he suggested that a quick and easy way to do this was to create a website, a hub, that was free, that could promote sustainability across the world using the standard. And so we created the free website, ISO2400.org, to provide this platform. And it's funded by Action Sustainability, it's the sister company, and that solely funds us by giving 2.5% of its turnover per annum to run the project. The steering group we have are 17 experts from around the world. They were also ISO committee members. We have 11 men and we have 6 women. And we meet virtually via Skype usually, 4 times a year to discuss the progress of the standard, promoting it, get feedback of what they're doing, tell them what we're doing. And of course, they contribute to the website that we run as well. The delivery partners are Sean, myself, and Jean-Louis Hay. He's in Australia, we're in the UK. It doesn't matter because of technology and what we're doing today and Skype, we're in lots of contact with each other. What I do is I administer the website and work with the IT provider. I communicate with the steering group and do all the reports and the data. I attend lunch and learns when we can have them, conferences, exhibitions, events, training sessions to promote the standard, and deliver webinars like today. This is the first one we've done on this. So because of the virus, we can't do it any other way. But the main job that I have is building this global community of practice around our social value. And I do that using LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and any other way that I can promote the standard. And because of this, and because there's so much interest now in sustainable procurement and climate change, we are growing, and quite quickly. Of the 195 countries around the world, 159 countries already access our website. The most participants we have are 3,242, and you're probably not surprised to hear that they're in the UK. Sorry. We've gained over 14,000 new users since February 2018. So we now have over 30,000 users in all. They've accessed, just since February 2018, over 20,000 sessions, and they've viewed over 40,000 pages between them. We've been approached by universities, colleges and students to use our resources in their academic courses and papers. Thousands of organisations have used the website for sustainable procurement as it's relevant to any business anywhere in the world. And we are attracting positive comments from around the world. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit stuck with the uppy downy here, so I shall just have to revert to this. So sorry, everyone, if you can just hang fire. You can see here how we've grown on social media. This is just the Twitter and the LinkedIn. The green is the LinkedIn and the blue is the Twitter. It says 10,500 here, but we're near 11,000 users on LinkedIn now and nearer 500 on Twitter. We've had comments, the Open University contacted us and asked if they could use some of our videos on their courses. Other academics from around the world, Anne in the Netherlands, Andrea in Italy. We also had Tony from the UK and someone from Marie from Denmark, Ray from New Zealand, and so on and so on. Lots of people interested around the world regarding sustainability and finding our resources very useful. IEMA also have a link to our website from their website, so that's really useful too. I'm going on to our website now, so it'll flash a little bit, but here you can see this is our home page on our website. You can see here that there is take a self-assessment, post your content, and behind my, it says talking to Caroline, but behind that it's actually a log on section. In the home page you can go on to anything, say e-learning, and when it comes up you can have a look at languages or the countries that they come from, or you can go into the subject matter and say you wanted a business case for using the standard. You'd click that, and if there were any resources in there, you'd pick those up. I'm just trying to think what it was.
All resources.
Okay. No. Okay. Unfilter.
Oh, yeah, so go to e-learning, click where it says e-learning, type of resource. Where it says type of resource and filter.
I won't bother, I'll just carry on with what we're doing. Case studies are the same. You can pick up what subject you want, what countries you want, and we have got several languages on the website too. I'm just going to go back to the home page now and show you down it. We have obviously the top tiles, then we have the most popular videos that are being watched at the moment, and recently on the social media we've been putting out videos, e-learning, and a resource every day pertaining to sustainable procurement. We also have hot topics at the moment. This hot topics is our steering group, and they're each telling you what they did, how they got involved with the standard, and what they're doing in their own countries now to promote it. When we go down, the most popular posts at the moment are there featured in case you want a quick way through. And you can also see what we're doing on social media. Here we've got Twitter and Facebook. LinkedIn don't allow us to have a connection to the website through theirs, but you can see those. And again at the bottom, another call to arms to post content or take a self-assessment. And I shall go on to the next slide and show you the self-assessment. Okay, so we recently added a self-assessment tool. It's been accessed by 154 organisations around the world, and I've listed the countries at the bottom there. Some don't give a country because they're international companies, so they do that. And it's just 20 questions. Next to each question there is a little eye, an information icon to give you guidance on how you might complete that part of the tool. And at the end of it you can print off your own table, your own charts. You can look against other trend data, and as more people take this self-assessment, we will have more data that you can compare yourself and your country against. So why are we doing all this? Well, we really want to make a difference. We want to be the go-to platform for knowledge and resources about sustainable procurement. We want to continue to grow our social media and website users, so we reach as many people around the world, but particularly in the UK, and we desperately want to bring this even more into Lancashire. We want more universities, colleges and students to reference and use our resources. We want to encourage as many organisations as possible to use the self-assessment tool to consider sustainable procurement. We want to make sure as much as possible that procuring sustainably is the new norm. It's not a nice to do, it's what we have to do, and we have to start doing it now. So my question is to you, why not join us? Why not join us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, and particularly on the website, and tell us what you want, what you need. Contribute your own stories of sustainable procurement, your successes as well as your failures. Find out by going onto the website what other people have been doing and maybe get some ideas from them. Okay, that's basically it for me. But what I'm going to say now is, if you have any questions, there's no questions been typed in at the moment, but if you wanted to do it audibly, you could do now. If you put your hand up, maybe Stephen could unmute you and then you could ask a question. Hi, Sophie. Hello.
Hopefully you've all been unmuted now.
I think I am still unmuted, yeah. No questions, brilliant. Okay, if we haven't any questions, I mean, if you do think of anything, you can ask them in any way.
Excuse me.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi. Can I quickly ask?
Yeah.
Sustainable procurement is the run through on the ISO.
Is the run through?
It's the run through on the ISO through the UK economy to comply globally to sustain raw material through the buying process.
Yeah, we're talking about, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter what you buy. The whole idea is to learn to purchase, to procure sustainably. It's a global standard. It's for everyone.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay.
Your role is to disseminate that information globally through training portals or?
A mixture of everything. We have information videos, we have case studies from around the world, we have articles, we have academic papers. We are CPD accredited, so if you go on the e-learning package and you take the quiz at the end and you pass, you can print off a certificate and use it as CPD accredited training in any organisation. My job is to basically administer the website and work with the steering group, the ISO committee, and act as secretariat to them.
Right, so you company secretary to them or secretary to the committee?
No, I'm project managing the website for Action Sustainability Community Interest Company, and I act as a secretariat to the steering group that work with us on this website.
Yeah,
Okay.
we role as such. This is something we do voluntarily.
Yeah.
So I led the UK delegation in the development of the standard. The committee wanted to disseminate the standard and to spread the word. And because we have a social enterprise arm to our business, we were able to fund this initiative. So kind of nobody gives us this job. It's something that we do voluntarily. And the platform that Caroline described is a knowledge sharing platform. So anybody that has anything to share that's related to sustainable procurement and that is appropriate to deliver free of charge, then we put it up on the website. So we've got over 200 resources of different sorts in different languages, so people can actually learn and share and develop a community of practice. So I think it's a much less formal arrangement maybe than you're describing.
Okay, if I could I've got business French. I have a tutor who needs to correct grammar for me for business French. If you need any guidance there, but thank you, that makes it clear. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. If you could contact us via email, that would be great, and we could catch up later.
We have questions as well, then.
Now we have some questions that are coming in on the chat, so I'm just going to find out.
Okay, so the first one is, how do you see fair trade in the role of sustainable procurement?
How do we see?
Fair trade.
Okay.
You want me to answer that one? Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Fair trade is very much part of the picture as far as we're concerned, as are many, many other labels and brands. What the standard does for you, it doesn't list all of the thousands of labels around the world that purport to certify goods as sustainable. But what it does do is it provides some really good guidance as to the type of certification available for various different goods and services and how to interpret them. Because quite frankly, there are some very good labels around the world. Fair trade would probably be a good example. Something like FSC for timber would be a good example. But there are others that are quite frankly a bit flaky. And what the standard does is it helps you to understand to ask the right questions of a supplier who has a certain label or a certain brand that they're trying to say, my product or my service is sustainable. So it's very much channeling the buyer in the direction of what to ask and how to evaluate some of these things intelligently, if you like. And then I need to go to my other computer and find the other question.
Get the next question. And the
Okay.
next question.
Well, the next question actually is a comment from Sarah Graham. I would definitely share on our social media. We are only very small, but we do work with schools and colleges as well as some businesses. We work in that.
That will be brilliant, Sarah. Thank you very much. If you take the email details down, I don't know why the sound's cutting again, but if you take my email details and contact me, that will be brilliant, Sarah. Thank you.
It's not Sarah, actually. I'm Sarah's husband.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah's husband.
But, yes.
Sarah's
Yeah,
husband.
I'll definitely put something on it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, I look forward to hearing from you, Sarah's husband.
Yes, Paul.
Paul. Thank you, Paul. Okay, anything else on there? That's it. Okay, so now I'm going to put you over to Sean. He's going to give you more details about the standard and he's going to introduce you to the supply chain school. I don't know if we mentioned. I'm muted. Why have I been muted?
Well,
You've now been unmuted.
we're on music.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to now pass you over to Sean to tell you about the ISO 2400 standard in more detail and introduce you to the supply chain sustainability school, which is also free. I don't know if I said it enough during my presentation, but everything on the ISO 2400.org site is absolutely. So if you want to have a look around anything, please do, feel free. And if you want to contact me, email me and just join us and see what we're doing and maybe pass it on to your contacts too. Thank you so much for your time. And now I'm over to Sean and I'll be taking the chat. So if you want to ask any questions throughout the presentation, please do. Okay, excuse me.
So yeah, I'm Sean McCarthy. I am a Director of Action and Sustainability. We're a small business with a social enterprise arm, as you've just heard from Carol Ann. I led the UK delegation in the development of the ISO 2400 standard, and I also chair something called the Supply Chain School. So I'm going to rattle through some slides that talk a little bit more about the standard, a little bit more detail about the standard, and then I'm going to flip over to talk about Supply Chain School as an example of best practice in supply chain engagement. So I've just pressed the wrong button on the slide, so excuse me while I go back. Oh, you've seen all the slides now. Okay, so the first question, if we start to look at the ISO standard and how it works, it encourages the user to ask the question why. Why do you want to do sustainable procurement? And the standard actually offers you a range of different reasons and definitions as to why you might want to do this. Because for me, you need to understand the why before you can understand the what. So different organisations are driven in different ways, and the spidergram that you can see there on the screen is just a made-up example of a fictitious organisation. But as you can see, if this is an organisation that's very much driven by cost, they're very much driven by competitive advantage, they may be driven by personal leadership, then you can start to bring up a picture of what it is you think you want your supply chain to achieve. So for instance, if I am driven by competitive advantage, then what are my competitors doing? And how can I actually leverage my supply chain to be as good or better? You know, where do you want to be in the market? You know, do you want to be an early adopter? Do you want to be a leader? So we can start to understand why. The standard encourages you to do that. So how can procurement help? What can procurement do to encourage an organisation to be more sustainable? And when we talk about sustainability, we cover a very wide spectrum of sustainability. Social, economic, environmental sustainability is all in the mix of this standard. So ISO 2400, Carolina's already described. We had a global steering group, I think more than 46 countries involved in developing the standard. You see a picture there of a group of members in Sydney, Australia, back in the day when we used to be able to travel. It sounds very glamorous, all this going around the world, but actually you'd go somewhere for a week and you'd have a week of meetings, going through lots and lots of comments from all over the world. It took us 4 years to develop the standard. But actually what I think we have is something quite robust now that is applicable in various different countries in the world. So who's doing it well? So we've assessed a variety of different organisations from my business, both in the UK and in Australia, also a little bit in Hong Kong as well. And this is what we found. This is typically, this is just over a year ago, so the standard was about 2 years in. This is where organisations are assessing themselves, or we're helping them to assess themselves against the various aspects of the standard. So if we look at the top piece, the fundamentals, reasonably good at due diligence, you know, understanding who our suppliers are and what they do. Not so good at understanding the impacts and the drivers that I've just described. So, you know, you start to build a picture of organisations that are kind of diving into doing due diligence of their suppliers without really understanding what they want to do. If I start to look then at the next level of the standard, so we start to look at policy and strategy, over on the right hand side there, formal commitment, yeah, that's good. We've got a nice policy signed off by the chief executive, wonderful, but not doing so well on clear accountabilities, really. So you've got your chief exec to sign off a lovely policy, but you haven't actually made anybody accountable for delivering it. We're not so good at smart objectives and actually setting out what we're trying to achieve in our sustainable procurement policy. And we're not so good at reviewing the performance. So once again, this starts to build a picture of me of you know, talking a good job, as they say. So we need to do better, and we can do a lot better. When I look at the enablers, these are the things that we need to do, organisational things that we need to do to enable a sustainable supply chain to actually happen. And as you can see, this is a real mixed bag. Plenty of stakeholder engagement, which again, you know, talks to me about talking a good job. Some reasonably good governance processes, some reasonably good engagement with our supply chains and with our stakeholders, but not so good at our staff capability and culture. Are we really training people? Buyers are a strange breed. I'm a long-standing procurement professional myself, and they need support. You know, a buyer is a kind of integrator of various different professional disciplines. And in order to do that, they actually need support from sustainability professionals. And they don't always have Performance, we're not necessarily as good at managing performance as we'd like to be, as around the world as organisations. If I look in the left-hand side there, individual objectives and setting priorities. If something isn't in people's own performance objectives and in their job description, the chances are they're not going to do it. So a lot of this process is a waste of time if you don't actually direct people to do what you want them to do. Setting priorities is very important, and I'll be talking about that in a moment to describe what that is and why we do it. Finally then, in the final section of the standard, when we talk about procurement process, again, reasonably good coverage of categories and sourcing processes, but not so good at the planning side, the early stages of procurement. Are we really embedding sustainable requirements into that procurement process at the right point in time and in the right stage in the process? So it's a relatively new standard. I think what we're seeing is a mixed bag of organisations that are moving towards it. One thing I would say about the standard, just to be completely clear, this is what ISO would describe as a guidance standard and not a requirement standard. So what that means is you can't get a certificate on the wall like you can for your ISO 9001 or 14001. It's very much describes a journey. So you can be assessed, you can be assessed by an independent organisation, you can do a self-assessment to understand where you are and what your journey is, but it's not like a pass-fail standard, and I like it that way. When we work with clients, it means that they can be completely honest with us, and we can actually evaluate really where they are and really what they need to do. In my experience, when you get an audit against a standard, this is really a competition for how good you are at hiding the bad stuff and how good the auditor is at finding it. That's not healthy from my point of view. So I like the idea of a guidance standard. I think it works very well. So a quick whiz through the sections of the standard and what they say. The fundamentals. So these are the principles on which your organisation is based. So what is it you stand for as an organisation? What is your policy organisationally as a business? What do you do? What is your social purpose? What are your environmental standards that you aim to achieve? And how are you driven? Why is it, as I said earlier, why are you actually doing that? What are your drivers? So we get a reasonably good fix on an organisation, either public or private, to set the right direction and to set the right tone. Of the standard, that's really just about writing it down at a high level. What is it you actually expect of your suppliers? What do you expect them to do? And how are you going to help to make that happen? And how are you going to understand your supply chain in a better way? This is an example, so these slides can go out to participants, and this session is being recorded as well. So this is one example from Go Ahead Group, a transport operator in the UK, who have set out very, very clearly their expectations of their supply chain, what they expect them to do, how they expect them to be measured, and which sections of the supply chain are more important against these objectives than others. So a good comprehensive document. There are plenty of examples, but this is one quite recent one published in 2019. Enablers. Let me run through the enablers quickly with you. Setting priorities. This for me is probably the most important thing that you can do. And it's just simply setting out a matrix. So where you have your sustainability objectives and goals, so I want to be, zero carbon, carbon neutral, carbon negative, whatever you're going to call it these days. Net zero is another good expression. I want to be zero waste to landfill. I want to pay my suppliers on time. I want my supply chain to employ 5% of their workforce to be apprentices, whatever it might be, whatever your objectives are. Set that out across the top of your matrix, and then set your supply categories down the side of your matrix. And you'll start to understand where you get best bang for your sustainable buck, as it were. So for instance, we do a lot of work in the construction sector. If I'm looking at, say, scaffolding contractors as a category of supply, they don't really need to know about the energy performance of the built environment. because they don't impact it in any way. So I don't ask them to achieve objectives around that. I want to look at transportation, air quality, health and safety, employment conditions, and various other things. So setting priorities, very, very important part of the standard. Engaging stakeholders, enabling people. This is about training, it's about support, it's about not just dumping yet another new requirement on a group of buyers that are usually overworked anyway. It's actually about helping them through the process. And we have a very good example actually in the northwest of England with United Utilities, who really created a supportive culture when we worked with them a few years ago. Helps their people, we ran coaching sessions for them, we ran training, we helped them with category groups, etc., etc. What we found after a 2-year period, the responses from the anonymous staff survey increased massively. The retention of staff improved massively because people are motivated by this stuff. They join and they stay in organisations because they're clearly motivated by by this type of thing. Measuring and improving performance. We're very good as procurement professionals at what I might call let and forget. So we place the contract and off you go, get on with it, and then we get on to the next contract and we place the next contract. We don't necessarily follow through with our supply chains, and I think it's important that we do that, particularly with sustainability objectives. So we use a cloud-based performance system to enable that to happen. So suppliers can actually report their performance pretty much in real time. So we can manage the performance going through. We understand if there are problems. If we've set certain objectives, say around waste or use of recycled materials, or earlier we had a question about fair trade goods. So if I'm buying goods that are appropriate to fair trade, what proportion of fair trade goods are coming through my supply chain? And I can get a dashboard up there that simply glows red, amber and green that tells me if I've got a problem. So I can actually manage performance in real time. I think it's important that we do that. Finally then, engaging stakeholders, and in particular engaging your supply chain. As I said earlier, if you expect your staff to do something new and don't support them with the learning that they need and the facts and the support that they need to do that, then the chances are it won't happen. Same is true of your suppliers as well. If you suddenly introduce a whole raft of new sustainability requirements to your supply chain, the chances are they'll fail if you don't do something about it. So really having good engagement with your supply chain, supporting them if you can, and selecting them in a way that doesn't narrow competition is very, very important. And I'll be talking in a moment about the supply chain school as a real global example of best practice in doing that. Finally then, the procurement process. The standard is quite comprehensive in its description of how to buy differently. So how to do your procurement planning, what you do about invitations to tenders, selecting suppliers, contracting, managing the contract, and then finally review and learn. So each stage of the procurement process in the standard is well described with some really good information about how you might do things differently. So I'm going to pause for breath there. That's a very quick go up through the ISO 2400 standard. The website that Caroline has described earlier is a fantastic resource of learning. So there's lots of video. There's like an 8-page little manual that I've written that means you can read that. You don't have to buy the standard. You can read that to get an idea of what the standard is all about. You can do a self-assessment against the standard. You can get some e-learning. So really what I've given you, hopefully, is a little bite-sized taster of what the standard might do for you. Okay, so I'm going to move on now and talk about supply chain school. Caroline, are there any immediate questions popping up? No, nobody's asking any questions. Great, so I'm going to carry on talking to you then. Okay, so supply chain sustainability school. This is something that I founded in 2012 along with my colleagues in Action Sustainability, very much driven by some of our customers in the construction sector, particularly Skanska. Skanska were very much the catalyst for making this happen. And they came to us in around about 2010, and they said, well, we want to be the most sustainable construction company in the world. And our problem is our supply chain is not competent to come with us. You know, we need to be able to develop our supply chain in order to deliver our objectives in sustainability and to satisfy our customers. And at the time, London 2012 Olympics, that was the project I was also deeply involved in, was really demanding higher standards of sustainability and making sure that they were being delivered. So we came up with the concept of the school with Scanscape. And then we went and found 6 mates, and we started the school in 2012 with 7 partners as a collaborative initiative. So that's where we got started. I'll talk in a moment about where we are now. So this is our mission, to be the world-class collaboration to enable a more sustainable built environment. That's what we're all about. We now have 96 partners. Getting some voices on the line. Have we got everybody muted? Okay, I'm going to carry on anyway. So we started off with 7 partners. We now have 96 partners. I'm getting a bit of an echo, but I'm still going to carry on. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. Does the school make a difference? Well, we do an impact survey every year. This is a result of a questionnaire from more than 1,000 participants in the school.
Okay. Amanda, do you want to go ahead? No, she's been muted.
Do you have a question? Okay, I will carry on. If you want to type your question, Amanda, that might be useful, and then we can pick it up at the end of the presentation.
He needs to unmute. Yeah, it's Caroline that needs unmuting, not you.
Okay, I think I can still be heard.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I'm Caroline. I'm not Sean, as it were, because I'm on Caroline's computer. Okay, so we look at the impact on our businesses, what we call members of the school. So I said earlier, we have 96 partners in collaboration. They all contribute to the school financially and intellectually. And then we deliver learning content, over 2,000 items of learning content to what we call our members. And we have over 41,000 people actively participating one way or another in this virtual learning environment. You can see here that we are making a difference. We are starting to see some very significant improvements in sustainability performance. But in some areas where we think we need to do better. So air quality, for instance, we started a plant group recently in the school because knowledge of air quality wasn't as good as we would like it to be. Reducing carbon emissions, 37% of our members are saying they're reducing carbon emissions. That's not good enough. We're in a situation where, you know, governments around the world declared a climate emergency, okay, before we had the coronavirus crisis. But the climate change issue is not going to go away. So we've launched an initiative around climate change to help our members actually improve their carbon emissions. And I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. This is the school's impact on business performance. And again, I think this is important, where significant numbers of our members that are responding, as I said, over 1,000 members, are reducing costs, are winning new business, are improving their knowledge of sustainability. So we're making a difference. We're really getting some traction in the organisation. How do we do it? Well, as I said, we're all about educating the supply chain of the main tier 1 contractors and clients in the construction sector. People join as a member. It's free to join. You have to log in. We have to register. We ask you for a bit of information about your organisation and who you are. You can do a self-assessment in a variety of different subjects now, not just sustainability. And the system will give you an action plan based on what you do in the supply chain. So what category of supply you're in is important. And based on your current level of knowledge around the sustainability topics that we have. And you'll only ever get 10 things in an action plan. So it pops up on the screen and you can work through your actions. Plenty of support, plenty of events, which we're delivering virtually at the moment, obviously. But we deliver over 300 events a year, as well as something like 90 odd e-learning packages and various other pieces of knowledge that you can access. So you can get a smart skills assessment, you can get an action plan. We have 5 topic areas. We started as the sustainability school, but we also now have some general management skills. We've got an off-site school for off-site construction. We have a lean construction school, and we have a school for BIM. So a whole range of knowledge areas there. We're also starting, we're doing some work now funded by CITB around procurement, so general procurement skills, and also digital skills. We have a project that we call Downloading a Digital Mindset. So very soon, later this year, those 5 topics will turn to 7, and we'll be delivering an even wider range of knowledge. What we want to be in the UK construction sector is the go-to portal for delivering learning, whatever it might be. Because we have the technology platform, we have the audience to be able to do that. This is a list of the e-learning modules you can access. I won't go through those in a lot of detail there, but as you can see, there's a very wide variety of subject matter that you can pick up on e-learning. We have over 2,500 learning resources on the website. We've got a new web platform that we introduced last year that we're very proud of. It's very selectable, very searchable, very easy to access information. As a member of the school, you can have a status of gold, silver, and bronze, depending on how much you're doing and how engaged you are in the school. Our governance, we have a school board of 9 elected members from partners. I chair the school board as an independent chair. And then we're divided up into a variety of different subgroups by sector, by location there. So you can see we've got a school for Scotland or a school for Wales, or by subject matter. So we have a carbon group that's very much driving reduction in carbon emissions through the supply chain and using our cloud-based software to measure that. We have a fairness, inclusion and respect program, which is all about workforce behaviour, equalities and diversity. That's a separately funded, separately governed piece of work from CITB, but we deliver it through the school. So the user gets to go on one platform and engage with one organisation rather than kind of Googling around trying to find out where you can get learning from different areas. So the Climate Action Group, this is a group that we formed about 6 months ago. It's all about tier 1 contractors, clients, other partners in the school, starting to encourage their supply chains to learn more about carbon emissions, but also to measure their carbon emissions using our software. So we've just started to roll that out now as a pilot. So by putting in some very simple information about your utility consumption, your fuel consumption, your vehicle miles, whatever it might be, it spits out a carbon footprint for your organisation, and you can access some learning about how to reduce it. What we can do then, as the school, as a collaboration and as a group of partners, we can start to add it all up into one big dashboard. So we start to understand for the first time the operational carbon footprint of a whole sector. I find that really exciting. We're starting to roll that project out, and then of course we can show how we're driving it down. So exciting new initiative around carbon. This is the school's vision. This is where we see ourselves going. So we'll deliver any subject matter that enables a sustainable built environment. We'll deliver it to anybody that's in the built environment sector or aspires to be in the built environment sector. So this could be students, this could be people thinking about joining the sector. Accreditation, we're fully accredited for CPD for all of our workshops and all of our e-learning. We work a lot with universities, so we constantly keep the knowledge fresh. We're constantly looking at new knowledge and how we can do things. Leadership, we push the agenda. So for things like carbon, things like modern slavery, things like employment conditions, where we know there are problems in the sector, we have 96 partners with a lot of noughts on that checkbook. If you were to add it all up, I never have, but it's a hell of a lot. They can actually leverage their supply chains to change. So we want to use that power. We're a UK-wide initiative. We do have sister organisations that run schools in France, in Australia, and there may be more in the future. And indeed, we may reach into our supply chains in future in other parts of the world. And I can see us delivering learning virtually in other languages in the future, but we don't do that yet. We work with partners who share our values. We're funded by those partners, and also we look for industry funding, government funding, anything else that we can find. This is quite a substantial organisation now. We have over 2 million of funding in the current financial year. Obviously, with the COVID crisis and the economic fallout from that, we're looking very carefully at our partners and any of those that may not be able to join or in a position to renew. But nonetheless, we're quite a substantial organisation. We expect to be around for a long while. Everything we deliver free of charge. So we're funded by those partners, we're funded by organisations like CICP, but we would never ask our supply chain for money. It's always free of charge. So we're collaborative, we're progressive, inclusive, inspirational, and it's free. What's not to like? Okay, that concludes the presentation from me. Thank you very much to everybody for listening to me. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then pick up any questions or comments that you might have. Okay, Caroline, have we got any questions coming through on the chat?
We had a comment from Paul. He agreed with something that you just said and said even now climate change is the most important global issue. If we think what we're going through with the virus is bad, can we possibly imagine the implications of global warming, which is going to be far greater and have a much bigger impact than the coronavirus?
I absolutely couldn't agree more. Climate change at long last really kind of came up the agenda last year with Extinction Rebellion and Greta and all of that stuff. I think we all started to work out that, do you know what, this is an existential threat to the human race. And then suddenly we have coronavirus, and obviously, there are tragic circumstances associated with that. But we can't ignore climate change, and we won't. And this is why we have our climate action group within the school, very well supported by our partners. They're starting to drive those requirements down their supply chain, and we're not stopping. We're carrying on doing what we're doing. As an organisation, I mean, there's a small business behind the supply chain school, which I'm part owner of. We employ about 30 people. We also have a consultancy business, so we help clients with some of this sort of stuff. And everybody's working and everybody's busy, and we're not furloughing anybody, we're not laying anybody off, and we're carrying on with this. So yeah, thank you for that. I couldn't agree more. We have to keep going with the climate change agenda. Okay, any more questions, Caroline?
No, we just had a few thanks. And
okay, got a few thanks. Well, thank you for that as well.
Stephen on mute people if they want to ask any
yeah,
questions.
so Stephen, shall I hand back to you? And if you want to, I don't know if you want to unmute people and if they've got any further questions.
I've unmuted them,
Right.
so they can now unmute themselves.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation. Very good. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about what's going on in countries like Brazil. We've probably still got deforestation going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the problem. We've kind of, if not careful, we're focusing in quite rightly at the moment on the coronavirus, but yeah, we've got to not ignore the other issue.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what life is going to be like after coronavirus? It's clearly going to be different. I think from a lot of what we deliver in supply chain school is virtual anyway. I mean, we set up a virtual learning environment in 2012, and we're learning, like everybody else, how to do things online more. And I think we'll probably do more of that. And of course, we don't really know what shape the economy is going to be in when we come out of this, other than bad. But what we have found so far, if I look at supply chain school and many of our partners renew in April, most of them have actually renewed. There's one or two that have said, look, sorry, we can't pay right now because, you know, we're only allowed to spend money on things that are absolutely essential. And in those cases, we said, well, look, okay, we'll give you a 3-month holiday. You remain a partner of the school. We'll come back to you in 3 months' time and see if you're in a position to pay. But the majority of our partners are actually staying loyal to us, which is fantastic. And we do have some quite generous funding streams from CITB, which will also continue. So we plan to continue our work through this virus. Some of our partners, people are being furloughed. That's happening. So sometimes we can't move forward as quickly as we would like. But no, this is not going away.
Are there any more questions? I'm seeing shaking of heads.
Lots of shaking heads, yeah.
Okay. In that case, and we're now at 1:05. I'd like to thank both Carol Ann and Sean for today's presentation, and hopefully we'll see you all soon at the next Chamber Low Carbon lunch or no lunch and learn event.
When it's real lunch and learn, we want sausage rolls. We like your sausage rolls.
Now, is it the sausage rolls or the honey-covered sausages?
Right. That's the secret.
They're the things that tend to be popular. Okay, right. In that case, we will be sending out a short questionnaire for feedback on today's presentation. Also, when we've edited the video and uploaded it onto YouTube and websites, we'll also circulate the link and also email out copies of today's presentation. So once again, thanks to our speakers and thanks to you all for participating. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.